everybody, welcome back to our channel kaviwebdesigns, and today I'm going to tell you about a new chapter called chapter number 8, Network Security Fundamentals. Let's go to our table of content to see what we have done and to see what we are going to do today. So here I'm going to my table of content here. So here we have studied the chapter number 1, Introduction to Networking, chapter number 2, Networking Models, chapter number 3, IP addressing and subnetting, chapter number 4, Network Devices, chapter number 5, Routing and Switching, chapter number 6, Network Protocols, chapter number 7, Wireless Networking, and chapter number 8, Network Security Fundamentals. So chapter number 8, what is firewall? A firewall protects your network by allowing or blocking traffic based on the rules, keeping out threats like hackers or malware. So now let's see what is the types of firewalls. The types of firewalls can be like packet filtering, which has basic checks on IPs and ports. Now let's move on to a second type of firewall, which is the stateful inspection. The stateful inspection tracks active connections through the firewall. Now let's move on to our next firewall, which is number 3, proxy firewall. Proxy firewall acts as a middleman for web traffic. Now let's move on to our next type of firewall, which is the fourth firewall, which is the next generation firewall, or the NGFW. The NGFW is an advanced threat detection. Now let's move on to our next one, which is the undefined threat management, or UTM. UTM is an all-in-one security tool. Now let's move on to our number 6th and 7th. So our number 6th firewall is the cloud firewall. The cloud firewall protects cloud environments. And let's move on to our next firewall, which is the firewall number 7, the virtual firewall. The virtual firewall is for virtual machines like UTM or VMbox. So now let's see what are the types of firewalls in this simple diagram here. So here it starts from web application firewalls to network segmentation firewalls to database firewalls to cloud-based firewalls, and then to the next generation firewalls, making a circle of network protections. Now let's see how do we set up the firewalls. Let's see how we set up the firewall. So here we have the rules, the inbound and the outbound, and the monitoring. So the rules is you must decide what traffic to allow or block. So you can decide that web application traffic cannot come into your firewall, or you can say that the database firewall should not block any databases. Now let's move on to our next one, which is the inbound/outbound. The inbound/outbound controls the incoming and outgoing data. So you can set up the inbound and outbound, controlling which data should come to your computer and which data should not come to your computer. And number 3, we have monitoring. Monitoring watches suspicious activities. So you can set this up too, and you can monitor what suspicious activities are going on in your firewall. Now let's move on to our next slide. Our next slide talks about the VPN. A VPN, or the virtual private networks, secures the internet by encrypting your data and masking your IP addresses, masking your online activities private. Now let's see what is the key concept of VPN. The key concept of VPN is encryption. Encryption codes your data to protect the data. And let's see what is tunneling. Tunneling creates a secure path for our data. Now let's see our third key concept, which is IP masking. IP masking hides your real IP address so nobody can hack you and do stuff on your computer. Now let's see what is the use cases of VPN. The use cases of VPN can be like, number 1, secure browsing. It protects the data on public Wi-Fi, like the router or any switches or hubs that you're sending to another computer. Number 2, we have the access restricted content. Access restricted content bypasses the geo blocks for streaming. Let's move on to our third use case, which is the remote work. Remote work connects to employees, securing to the company networks, and so nobody can hack into your employee's computer and do stuff without him knowing it. Number 4, we have anonymity. Anonymity keeps browsing activity private. If you keep your browsing activity private, nobody can see or even try to see what are you searching. Now let's see the fifth and final use case of VPN. Avoiding throttling. It prevents ISPs from slowing your connection to other computers. So now, as you can see here in this diagram here your computer, which has an IP address of suppose 123, when you use VPN, it has a secure tunnel where hackers cannot steal your data, and internet server providers ISP can't do anything to your computer. And then you can see all of your favorite websites without the hackers stealing your data. Now let's move on to our next slide. So our next slide talks about the DS and ISP overview. What is DS and ID? What is IDS and IPS? Instruction Detection Systems, or IDS, and Instruction Prevention Systems, IPS, are key components of network security. And IDS, or Instruction Detection Systems, function is that it monitors for suspicious activities and alerts the administrators or us. And then the types of, let's see what is the types of IDS. The types of IDS can be the network-based or NIDS. The network intrusion detection systems. The NIDS monitors the network traffic. Now let's move on to our second type of IDS, which is HIDS, or host-based instruction detection systems. And HIDS monitors the individual devices. Now let's move on to our limitations of IDS. The limitations of IDS is it detects but does not prevent attacks. And it may generate false positives, like false information. So as you can see here, now let's move on to IPS. Now what is the function of IPS? The function of IPS is that it actively blocks and prevents threats real time. Now let's see what are the types of IPS. The types of IPS is the network-based and host-based, which is NIPS. NIPS protects the entire networks, while HIPS protects individual devices just like HIDS. But it is HIPS for IPS. So let's see what are the advantages of the IPS. The advantages of the IPS is it provides immediate threat mitigation. Now let's see what are the key differences of IDS and IPS. IDS monitors and alerts, which is passive, but IPS, on the other hand, monitors and prevents any threats and hackers, which is active. Now as you can see here in this diagram here, let's see which one is better, IDS or IPS. So as you can see here, IDS starts from your computer accessing the internet, and then going through the firewall, and then going through the switch where it goes to the server of the IDS management system, and then the cooperate network, which is the web browser and the email server. But on the other hand, IPS starts from your computer, going to the internet, then going to your firewall, then it goes to our IPS directly instead of going to the switch, and then after going to the IPS, it will go to the switch, and then it will go to the management system or the cooperate network, which goes to the web server for the applications, and the email server for sending emails across different networks. So I suggest that IPS is better than IDS in some cases. So folks, that's it for today. And if you like this video and you want to support us, please like, share, subscribe to our channel kaviwebdesigns. And I hope you all have a nice day. And I'll see you in the next video. And this is Bhavik signing off.